An independent country superstar in the making joins us on this edition of the Music Universe podcast.
Oh, buddy, this was one of my favorite interviews that we've done so far on the whole podcast. Truly.
Yes, and we've had quite a few, but this nice guy, his name's JD Shelburne, and he grew up on a tobacco farm in Taylorsville, Kentucky. He's living in Nashville now. He's been there for the last decade. He's got the makings of a superstar by just his work ethic that he spoke to us about. It's just insane.
He's such a hard worker. We start off the interviews by saying, what are you doing during this downtime, etc., etc. But it really led into a conversation about how he handles his business end of being an independent artist and financing his own records and the whole deal. And he was really open with us, and that's what I like. I don't care if you're a superstar or if you're a newcomer or if you're somewhere in between like JD with a strong fan base but no label support. If you come on and you're open with us, it's going to be a great interview, and this is just one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
He was super cool. He had the time off a little bit, but we just kind of laughed at that. That happens on occasion, even with us, at different time zones, and then everybody's quarantined, so you're trying to remember what day it is, let alone what time it is. So we had a lot of fun with him, and we just want to play the interview and hope that you enjoy it as well.
JD Shelburne, welcome to the Music Universe podcast, and congrats on landing the cover of a magazine in your home state, Kentucky Living Magazine. How does that feel?
Man, it's been overwhelming. I moved to Nashville about 11 years ago, so I've been constantly grinding for a decade, and to finally get some notoriety, statewide with my state. I'm on the tourism guide cover as well as the Kentucky Living Magazine. So that's over between the two of them, it's actually over 1 million subscribers that they're able to see this, and so it's been overwhelming. It's really been a great platform to help get gigs, but with this whole COVID thing going on, everything's kind of on hold. So it's kind of like, what's next? But we've been doing well on the promo side, and it's been great to get some coverage back home in Kentucky.
Yeah, that's awesome when you can get that hometown coverage as well. But we always like to ask our interviewees how they're coping with COVID-19 and the quarantine and what you're doing to try not to go stir crazy.
It's been a change for me. I'm an artist that plays over 200 concerts a year. We're constantly on the road touring every weekend almost. And so the last 7 years of my career, I played over 180 shows to 220 every single year. So this has been a weird change for me. I've been home in March and April, which is very rare. I can actually work outside and mow my yard, one thing that I've been able to transition is doing these Facebook Lives on my website every night. So I'm able to reach fans from my home office studio, and that's been kind of a neat transition to really reach a lot of new people. And so every night that I do these concerts, I'm able to reach a new platform of fans, and most of the same fans come back every night. So that's been kind of neat. I don't have to leave the house, I don't have to spend any money, drive to the shows, and at the end of when this is all said and done, hopefully at the end of the day, it'll actually help build my fan base. So I'm kind of just taking it day by day. And the worst part of everything is I've lost 27 shows so far. And so that's kind of hurt. That's kind of hurt, from an artist standpoint, how you make your living, and, a band to pay and stuff. So I'm hoping that there's light at the end of the tunnel over this, and, it doesn't last all summer.
Are you going to try to reschedule those shows?
Well, I would actually kind of hope that happens, but it's not very promising right now. Most of the festivals that I've worked hard on getting or headlining, actually, they're just canceling the whole show. They're not even going to reschedule it. It's these festivals that are doing, one-time festivals in their whole year. That's their big festival, for the state or for the county. So they're just going to push it back to 2021 now. And so that's kind of what I'm running into. A lot of these bar gigs that I'm playing are going to reschedule farther in the fall, but at the same time, the festival gigs were big paying shows and, great promo in new cities we've never played. And so we worked really hard, the last 6 months on building our promo and getting things connected and, selling our brand. And now we're having to cancel, and it's been disheartening, but at the same time, my wife and I are safe at home, and we're just kind of living it day by day and hoping something happens at curb soon.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's a shame. CMA Fest was canceled, and that's kind of the marker. They're not going to push that back. So it makes sense that these festivals, because there's only a finite amount of time, especially if you live somewhere in the north. It's only warm for a couple of weeks, really, anymore out of the year. So makes sense. What are your plans? Are you going to get creative to try to make up for those lost dates? Now that those dates themselves are open, what are you looking to do? How are you looking to supplement to make up for it?
Well, income-wise, I have been doing Facebook Lives like once. I've been doing Facebook Lives every night, but
Mm-hmm.
I actually have been asking for tips and donations like once a week or once every 2 weeks from my fans, and that's helped a little bit. But I had a really big year last year, so I was able to save a lot of money, thankfully, and that helps us kind of get by because music's how we survive, or how I survive on the road. And I pay my crew and my PR firm, and with no dates coming in, it's kind of we really don't know what to do to kind of keep it going. But I do have a new record coming out, and each year that I put a record out, which is every 2 years, it comes out August the 8th. I go back to my hometown in Kentucky and throw a free concert, and to put that concert on, I raise sponsorship money. And so I've been able to, raise quite a bit of money on my hometown show. So I'm hoping that, the hometown, I've kind of got a weird feeling that I guarantee you the first time we're able to get out of our houses and throw a concert is probably in August. That's kind of what I don't really want to say, but I feel like from what I've read online. So maybe my hometown show will be the first kickoff, people can actually get out of the house and kind of get back together. But, I've been raising a lot of money for sponsorships on that. So hopefully that'll all supplement out. And, I have a big fall. I mean, I've had a few shows that have rescheduled to the fall, but I mean, like I said, I'm from, Nashville. I live in Nashville. So up to about October 10th is about when the warm weather stops. And so anything past October 10th, you're taking a gamble on cold weather and rain. And so a lot of these festivals, I only have so many dates that I can supplement, that I can reschedule dates to. So I'm kind of taking whatever first come, first serve, I'll lock down. But at the same time, I'm just getting creative with doing Facebook Lives and just kind of going there. My main concern is not really the funds. It's more just keeping the fans interested and keeping them, up to date on what I'm doing, my record, and that kind of thing.
So you mentioned the new record. You release one every 2 years on the same date. Can you tell us the significance of that?
I don't really release it on the same date. I do one every 2 years. I'll usually release them in July or August. And basically I do it every 2 years. It gives me about a 2-year promo of the song. I can usually put out 3 singles, get videos out, and I tour so much it allows me to really build up the next CD. And I think if I do one every year, it's just a little too much stress because you're trying to find good songs and write songs. And by the time year one ends, honestly, my records are just starting to get hot by the time I tour for 1 year. And so my last record I put out in 2018, it got us 2 features on CMT. We had a single that went to 29, and I built a huge network of fans, and I've been able to play a ton of shows. And so every 2 years really gives me enough time to really make the fans, eager for new music. But at the same time, it gives me a 2 years to plan, great songs and that kind of thing, and build money to because it cost me several $1,000s to put an album out. And so it gives me time to plan that and that. So, but it works. And this year we pushed it back to August 8th. And we did that because, my summer was just so slam packed. Another month or 2 to work on the record and polish it up and get the pictures done. So August 8th, it'll be here before we know it.
So you finance your releases yourself?
All myself. I do every bit of it myself. Yep.
That's awesome. And, I've interviewed you before on my other show, and I don't even think I knew that then. And that just makes me admire you more. And the question I have there is, a lot of artists, their goal is to get a record deal, to go to one of the big companies. Are you content to keep doing it yourself, or is the goal to have a record deal? Or have you had one in the past and it just didn't work and this is the better format for you?
Well, I'll tell you, back to, you mentioned about doing it all myself. I'll tell you one of my most proudest accomplishments that I've done as an artist is, and back in 2018, I went back home to do a concert. I live in a little small town outside of Louisville. It's got like 2 stoplights. I mean, really small quaint town, and great folks. And I went back home, and about 8,000 people showed up to my hometown show. And the merchandise I sold that night paid my whole entire record off.
Wow.
I mean, I sold that many albums. I sold that many albums and T-shirts and hats, and it paid my entire record off.
That is awesome.
You're talking 20 grand. You're talking 20 grand. And you know, I got amazing fans. You know, and this year, it's just, I feel like every 2 years I put out an album, it just continues to build. You know, and I've just done it all myself. But I tell you, you know, at the end of the day, I would love to have a record deal. Don't get me wrong. I feel like if I had a deal, I could get some of the bigger media a lot easier, like Today Show, like playing the Grand Ole Opry, some of this, you know, Fox News, some of the stuff that's nationwide and one click of a button. And that's one of the things that is an independent artist is trying to get on its own. You come to roadblocks sometimes you just can't get around. But in the meantime, I'm making a great living, and I'm meeting fans. I'm putting out new music every 2 years, and so hopefully this new producer that I brought in this year on my new record that's coming out, he's kind of hinted to me he's going to get me some great meetings. And so, you know, everybody he's worked with has usually got a deal. So I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, that, you know, maybe one of these days I'll get a deal I can't turn down. And that, at the end of the day, that would be a main goal.
Can you reveal the producer?
Phil O'Donnell. Phil O'Donnell's producing my album. He's written a bunch of number one hits. He's produced lots of, you know, Blake Shelton, lots of big artists, and so he works with Warner Brothers and Sony, and so he's been a nice little iron in the fire for me producing, and he's definitely a great guy to know that knows the industry well, and I feel like he's believed in me since day one, and we'll see what happens, man. I'm really excited what the future holds.
Well, all it takes is one person to believe in you that can just skyrocket your career. And, you know, if you're making a living for yourself now, you know, it's just exciting to think about what the future holds because you're stable. So it can only get bigger from there.
Exactly right. You know, being stable in the industry is such a relief. I mean, I moved to town with hardly, you know, not much money. I just moved down here and got a day job and made ends meet. And then I just stayed active and just honed my craft and took gigs and played gigs and drove my truck miles to get a gig. And, you know, I'm just so grateful I stuck with it, you know. So now that, you know, I've been in the music business 10 years doing it all. So most people that I do podcasts for or even do news interviews think I already have a deal. And it's actually it blows my mind that people think that, but that's just the way I run my business. And I'm so glad that I saved money along the way. And, you know, my wife and I are cushioned to, you know, if this were to happen, if we were to shut down our touring dates till December, we'd be fine. You know, and that's what I'm thankful for, that we didn't just blow money when it came in from gigs. And so when you play over 200 shows a year, you know, sometimes you can blow money, and thankfully we haven't, and we're able to be okay. I'm most frustrated that I've worked so hard building my schedule this year because of this tourism guide I'm on the cover of, and a couple other things that we got in the works, and now the gigs are kind of falling off the mat. So
yeah,
who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, and they've actually, a lot of organizations have put together relief funds for the crew, musicians, just everybody. But, you know, you can't do it without the crew. You can't do it without the band. And that's really cool to see that these organizations and artists are coming together to support everybody. It's not just about the person you see on stage and the band behind them. It's about everybody that puts that together. So that's really cool that they're working with that stuff too, because you've also raised a lot of money for charities as well. Not those charities, but, you know, St. Jude's and Blessings and a Backpack and Susan G. Komen. So how important, especially in a time like this, is charity?
Oh, I mean, huge, man. I mean, that's how I really started my brand of being an artist, where, you know, but when I first got started playing music, I just started playing different charity concerts, and for St. Jude and Susan Komen. I did all sorts of charities for kids back home that aren't really on the national scale. And that's how I built my name, was playing these concerts to raise money for people. And anytime someone needed help to raise money, they would usually call me. This is before I moved to Nashville. So I learned what charity work was when really I didn't know much about the music business. But now that we're dealing with this COVID outbreak, you can bet that once this is all over, that I'll look into Music Cares and help donate to those kind of funds. Now that artists like myself and my band and people like that can, really use the help if it were needed, especially my band. And so, I'll definitely, this has kind of opened my eyes on other charities, and especially with musicians. And, there's so many of my friends are out of work right now that have nothing coming in. They're all driving for Uber and Lyft, and that's all they're doing to survive. And so, this has opened my eyes on other charities. But, one of my most recent things that just happened, we had a charity back in Louisville, Kentucky called Blessings in a Backpack. And I was selected to be one of 6 celebrities to come in and sing a karaoke song behind the screen. And basically, they would do this video, and the public on Facebook would have to try to guess who was singing behind the screen. And so they would guess that, and then at the end of the contest, they ran a contest for whoever had the most votes got $1,000 to their charity of choice. And so I won that, and Blessings in a Backpack got $1,000 check last week. So in the midst of a lot of negativity right now, I'm able to, give back a little bit of money when needed. And that was cool that my fans helped make that happen.
Oh, absolutely. It's always got to feel great to give back, especially when you're in the position to be able to do that.
For sure.
Well, and it's just a testament to your quality as an artist and as a human being that your music is speaking to people, that your performances are speaking to people. And I have to say thank you for being open to talking with us today about the business side, because we've talked a lot to a lot of people who say, yeah, I'm sitting at home and I'm writing and it's okay. I'm doing fine, no gigs and whatever. But to hear you break it down like this and to be somebody who's been doing it yourself, to speak as candidly as you did, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for talking this side of it.
I appreciate you guys calling me. I'm sorry that I signed on late. I'm in the wrong time zone, I guess. But
no worries.
It's good.
Not late at all.
It's good to be able to chat with you guys and for our stories to be heard, over this whole crisis. And I sure hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and we don't lose the entire summer. But the more and more I read, the more and more it's kind of falling that way. But one can only hope. We'll see what happens. But I do feel like that once this is all said and done, I feel like live music and festivals will be booming more than they probably ever have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a Facebook post. He's a bass player out in Vegas that I'm friends with. He said, it feels desolate right now, but I guarantee you won't be able to get a reservation at a restaurant. Concerts will be sold out quicker than they've ever been. People are getting restless. We're already planning, my partner and I are already planning where we're going to go immediately when this is over. Just where do you want to go? Anywhere.
Exactly. I'm in the same boat. And we have friends in Florida right now that we text, and I was like, hey, are the beaches open? Is it even crazy to even ask? And they're like, actually, they're closed. It's hard to believe that you can actually close a beach. And it's just like when those open, I mean, you'll never be able to get on the beach anymore for at least 4 or 5 months. And so, it's wild right now. But thankfully, I don't really know anybody that's been that has the coronavirus. I don't really know anybody personally, that any of my family, any of my close friends, and so everyone's pretty safe. And trying to keep our distancing and staying inside. So I look on the bright side of things. I am losing gigs and losing revenue. But at the end of the day, my family is all healthy, and I'm thankful for that over gigs and revenue any day.
Because you don't have any of that without the health.
Exactly.
So awesome. Well, JD, we appreciate you spending that time with us, and I would love to have you back on, especially when you got a new album coming out and when the tour dates kick back off, and you can, always feel free to come back on anytime.
Absolutely. And if you come up New York way, I'll make sure that I come and see you and say hello. All right?
Be great.
Some of the best interviews are when you could ask one question and it just continues. And I know we come up with some ideas as we sit down to brainstorm and talk with them. And sometimes those questions we don't even ask because we couldn't either find a place to ask it, or maybe the interview would just hop around too much to make sense.
Or they get to it, or they get
Or
to
they-
it in the
they
answer
touch
to
on
one question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he was very thorough, and appreciate JD coming on. Hopefully in the future we'll have him again. But yeah, definitely check out his music. He's got a huge following on social media.
Absolutely, he does. All right. Well, for this edition of the Music Universe podcast, I'm Matt.
And Buddy, keep on listening and check out themusicuniverse.com. Thanks, guys.